I've been holding a stop-slow bat for 4 years. I've done highway upgrades, city roadworks, and the lonely shifts out in the sticks where you don't see another car for 3 hours. You see things when you stand in one spot for 12 hours. Foxes, drunks, but mostly, you just see the dark. Last night, I was posted on a detour road near the Blue Mountains. It was a graveyard shift in every sense of the word. Dead quiet. Cold. The boys, the road crew, were about 2 kilometers up the road fixing a massive landslide. The heavy rains had brought half the mountain down. I was the first line of defense. My job was simple. Stop the cars, radio the pilot vehicle, wait for the escort. Around 2:30 a.m., the fog started rolling in. Thick, white soup. It dampened the sound of everything. I couldn't even hear the excavators up the hill anymore. Then, I saw headlights cutting through the mist. They were yellow. Old halogen bulbs, not the bright LEDs you see on new utes. One was slightly dimmer than the other. I flipped my bat to stop. I stood tall, clicked my radio to stand by. The car rolled out of the fog. It was an old AU Falcon. Series 2, I reckon. Faded white paint. One of those plastic weather shields on the window. And the classic magnesium alloys. It rolled to a halt right at the toes of my steel caps. The engine was idling rough, that distinct tick-tick-tick of an old Ford straight six that needs an oil change. I waited. The driver didn't flash their lights, didn't rev. I walked over to the driver's side window. "G'day, love," I said, putting on my best customer service voice. "Bit of a wait tonight, the boys are moving machinery." No answer. The window was half down. I shone my torch inside. "Sir?" I asked. The seat was empty. I don't mean the driver was hiding. I mean, empty. The fabric was torn. The steering wheel was stripped to the metal. The gear stick was just a jagged metal rod. But the car was running. The keys were swinging in the ignition, clinking against the steering column. I stepped back, my heart hammering against my ribs. I shone the light into the back seat. That's when the smell hit me. Not petrol. Not old car smell. It smelled like wet dust and ozone. Like a thunderstorm mixed with fresh concrete. The back seat was piled high with clothes. High-vis vests, hard hats, boots. Not just thrown in there, stacked. Neatly folded piles of orange and yellow reflective tape, reaching all the way to the roof lining, and in the middle of the pile, something moved. It looked like a hand. Pale. Grey. But it was wrong. It had too many joints. It was long like a spider leg made of meat. It was slowly, lovingly, folding a high-vis vest. "Code red," I whispered into my radio. "Control, this is Shazza. I've got a situation at the South Post." Static. Not just silence, but a voice in the static. Low. Guttural. "Let it pass." It wasn't the foreman. Suddenly, the Falcon revved. It didn't sound like a car engine anymore. It sounded like a scream. The car peeled out, but it didn't go straight. It reefed the wheel hard left, jumped the gutter, and smashed straight into the dense scrub. I watched the taillights bounce through the trees, crunching branches, smashing saplings. Then, silence. No crash, no fire, just the fog closing up behind it. I stood there shaking. I clicked the radio again. "Dave, you copy? Someone just crashed into the bush at South Post." "This time," Dave answered, crystal clear. "Shazza, stop messing around, love. There's no bush at South Post. You're on the bridge. There's a 50-meter drop to your left." Dave wasn't joking. I walked to the edge of the asphalt. My torch beam just ended. The fog was swirling against a sheer drop where the embankment had slid away 3 days ago. That AU Falcon didn't drive into the bush. It drove into thin air. I shone my light down. Nothing but white mist and the tops of gum trees 50 meters down. No fire, no twisted metal. Just silence. I ran back to the ute. I locked the doors. "Dave," I radioed. "I swear to you, a car just came through. White Falcon. No driver. It went over the edge." Static. Then Dave came back. But he sounded different. Further away. "Shazza, you've been on the radio for 20 minutes. You keep saying the same thing." "What?" "You keep asking if we can smell concrete. Over and over." My blood ran cold. "I haven't said a word about concrete, Dave." "Yeah, you have," he said. "You said we buried it." I dropped the mic. The smell inside my ute changed. The air conditioning vents blasted a puff of cold, damp air. It smelled like wet lime, like fresh slurry. I looked at my rearview mirror. In the reflection, I saw the stop-slow sign standing on the road behind me. I'd left it sticking out of a traffic cone. But it wasn't turned to stop anymore. It was turned to slow. And standing next to it, just on the edge of my brake lights, was a figure. It was wearing a high-vis vest. But the reflective tape wasn't silver. It was glowing a deep, rusty red. It wasn't looking at me. It was looking down at the road surface. It was pointing at the white line. I grabbed my phone to call the boss. No service. SOS only. I looked back at the mirror. The figure was closer. It was right at my tailgate. I scrambled to start the ute. It cranked and died. Tick, tick, tick. The sound of a dying Ford engine. But I drive a Toyota Hilux. The sound was coming from inside my cab. I locked the doors. I curled up in the footwell. I'm not ashamed to say I hid. Outside, the fog turned grey, heavy. It started to rain. But it didn't sound like rain on the roof. It sounded heavy, sludgy, thud, 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 like someone was throwing handfuls of mud at the windscreen. I waited for sunrise. It felt like hours. Eventually, I saw headlights, real ones. LED spotlights cutting through the dark. It was the foreman's ute. I jumped out, waving my arms. "Dave!" I screamed. Dave jumped out. He looked terrified, but he wasn't looking at me. He was looking at my ute. "Shazza, get away from the vehicle!" I ran to him. "There was a Falcon, and a guy in a red vest." Dave grabbed my shoulders. "Shazza, shut up! Look at your ute!" I turned around. My white Hilux wasn't white anymore. It was coated entirely in grey concrete. Wet, setting concrete. It was dripping off the mirrors, covering the windows, filling the tray, and on the driver's side door, scratched into the wet mix, were 3 words: keep it buried. We towed the ute. The mechanic said the engine block was seized solid, filled with cement. I quit the next day. I don't do night shifts anymore. I don't do road works. But sometimes, when I'm driving my own car, I hear it. That tick, 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 coming from the back seat. And I smell wet dust. If you're driving near the Blue Mountains, and you see a traffic controller standing in the fog, check their vest. If the stripes are silver, you're fine. If they're red, don't stop, just drive. Drive until you run out of fuel.